Good evening, America. I'm Pete Diddy, always on for a Petey party. Welcome to News Drops TV, a humorous twist when needed as an add to the news mixology.
And I'm Ghislaine Maxwell, ready for today's island adventure. Welcome to News Drops TV, where we drop bombs on the news and chase out the rats.
Our top story tonight. Starbucks is finally admitting what we've all known for years. Their menu is more complicated than calculus. CEO Brian Niccol is slashing 30% of their offerings in what they're calling their Back to Starbucks plan.
You mean I won't be able to order my triple shot, half-calf, sugar-free vanilla, oat milk latte with extra foam and a sprinkle of unicorn tears anymore? This on top of I can't just go there and hang out all day, staring blankly at people without purchasing anything. I'm gonna miss having people trip over me.
The horror, Ghislaine! But seriously, Niccol's also bringing back those good old-fashioned condiment bars and ceramic mugs. You know, like when coffee shops were actually about coffee?
Well, Pete, it looks like Starbucks is going back to basics. Maybe now we can all order a coffee without needing a translator.
Thanks for that insight, Ghislaine. Now, moving on to our next story.
Moving on to our next story, and this one's a real head-scratcher. Turns out living in the world's happiest countries might not be all sunshine and rainbows after all.
Who would have thought that constant pressure to be happy could actually make people unhappy? A new study shows that in countries like Denmark, people feel extra stressed when they're not living up to that happy Viking image.
You mean forcing people to be happy doesn't actually make them happy? I'm shocked, Pete. Shocked. Kind of like being told, you won't own anything, and you'll be happy.
Studies indicate in an ironic twist, the more people experience pressure to feel happy and not sad, the more they tend to experience depression.
Sounds like emotional gaslighting. Kinda like New York's Governor Hochul saying, send 'em here, we'll take 'em all in. New Yorkers love more illegals.
And now, a serious warning from the FBI. Stop answering those suspicious calls, folks, especially if they're claiming to be from your bank or even Google.
That's right. These scammers are getting more sophisticated than tax code. They're now using AI to make their calls sound more convincing. So, if you don't recognize the number, don't answer. They can leave a message if it's important.
And definitely don't respond if they say, "We're with the government and we're here to help you." Speaking of questionable decisions, here's a story that'll make you shake your head. Remember those Biden-era commutations? Well, one recipient just got arrested days after being released for trying to fake a drug test with watered-down coffee.
I guess he thought prison coffee wasn't strong enough. The local sheriff called him a bad cat, which might be the most polite way I've ever heard someone described who got clemency and immediately proved why they shouldn't have. Another good release by Biden, much like all the printed dollars he let go into the world.
In tech news, the FCC is launching an investigation into a Soros-backed radio station that thought it would be a good idea to broadcast the live locations of undercover ICE agents.
Because nothing says responsible journalism like potentially endangering law enforcement officers, right, Pete? You know that George Soros, just a fun guy. He sure likes to have fun watching societies erode in chaos. He's like having that rich uncle that said he's gonna pay for your party, and does so, but invites the Hells Angels to it, just to kick some stuff around.
And in postal news, now that's an unstable topic. To be included with the new US tariffs is an end to the de minimis rule, a loophole that exempts packages below $800 from being subject to tariffs on imports from China. This means that packages from China are now subject to all US duties, not just the new 10% tariff imposed yesterday.
And Temu, this means you. China is in discussions with hot air balloons out of Ohio to see if they can arrange alternate transportations.
The CIA is making headlines by offering buyouts to its entire workforce. 8 months of pay and benefits if you quit. Talk about a golden parachute. Some folks had to be woke from their naps in order to hear the news.
In international aid news, USAID is getting a major overhaul. Turns out spending billions overseas while we've got problems at home isn't sitting well with the new administration.
Through USAID, our government spent more than $12 billion until 2020 to help Syrian civilians affected by war. Most funding was intended for food and medical supplies, but the effort failed in part when Mahmoud al-Hafyan was accused of skimming more than $9 million worth of meals funded by USAID and diverting it to armed combatant groups. A 2015 ProPublica story revealed how USAID wasted $17 billion in Afghanistan, including $335 million on a diesel-fueled power plant that was so expensive it was underused, $486 million on planes that couldn't be flown, and $106 million on an unused consulate.
So, I guess Afghanistan maybe shouldn't have gotten all that additional armament we left there from the Biden withdrawal.
Yeah, what's a few billion and some good armaments between rival states?
More news from China while they are showing off their lightning-fast reflexes in the latest episode of Trade Wars: The Empire Strikes Back. According to Eurasia Group analyst Jeremy Chan, China's response was, quote, relatively measured, targeting only $20 billion in U.S. exports compared to our $500 billion hammer drop.
They're specifically targeting minerals like iridium and molybdenum, essential for solar panels and batteries.
Nothing says we care about green energy quite like blocking materials for clean technology, right, Pete?
But here's the real plot twist. President Biden not only kept Trump's tariffs, but actually increased them on Chinese EVs from 25% to 100%.
As Macquarie analyst Thierry Wisman puts it, China has no choice but to be aggressive.
Makes sense, some aggression here, while they prep for their peaceful transition of Taiwan takeover.
Well, that's all for this episode of As the UN Turns.
Stay tuned for our next segment, Hunter Biden's Guide to International Business Relations.
I hear it's quite artistic.
And finally, proving that experience matters, former Senator J.D. Vance is flexing his political muscle as VP, helping push through some selected cabinet nominees. That's right, J.D. Vance might have left the Senate faster than a Silicon Valley startup burns through cash, but boy is he making waves,
And who would have thought? He's helping confirm some of the most, let's say, interesting cabinet picks we've seen since, well, Hillary Bleach-Bit Clinton.
RFK Jr. for Health and Human Services, Tulsi Gabbard for Intelligence, a bit of real care and a toss of integrity. Talk about a plot twist that would make Netflix jealous. The JFK Jr. and Bernie Sanders banter revealed how eyes can shift when truth hits you right in between them. Bernie was about to get dizzy from his eye spasms when he tried to defend the millions he took from Big Pharma for campaign contributions. All this came from his hammering JFK on whether he'd possibly take retribution funds.
Yeah, then the stuttering search for words from Elizabeth Indian Princess Warrior Warren when backsliding on false accusations toward Bobby. She seems to have fallen off of her warhorse. But here's where it gets spicy. VP Vance took to X, formerly known as Twitter for our viewers over 40, with what we'll call a friendly reminder to Republican senators.
To reject their confirmation is to reject the idea that President Trump decides his cabinet.
Subtle as a sledgehammer, wouldn't you say, Pete?
And let's not forget Senator Susan Collins, who's apparently having deep philosophical discussions with Vance about the difference between Canada and Mexico.
Groundbreaking stuff.
Well, there you have it, folks. From Senate freshman to presidential whisperer in record time.
Coming up next, we'll explore why Canada is not, in fact, Mexico. Stay tuned. And in our You Can't Make This Up segment of the day, New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy apparently thought it would be a good idea to publicly challenge federal immigration authorities. Seriously. On broadcast news, the genius decided to announce his action in boarding an illegal immigrant, and then offer to have the federal government come and make him be obedient to federal law. Homan stated, "I think the governor is pretty foolish saying what he said because I've gotten a hold of it. We won't let it go. We'll look into it. Then, if he's knowingly harboring and concealing an illegal alien, that's a violation of Title 8, United States Code 1324. I will seek prosecution, or the secretary will seek prosecution." Further, Homan said, "Maybe he's bluffing. If he's not, we'll deal with that."
This just in from our neighboring Backslide News Network. A source close to the governor said, "No one ever actually moved into his home, so not for a month, not for a week, not for an hour, not for a day." The source added, he was just talking about someone in his broader orbit who was on edge over the broader climate and was concerned. He mentioned, not even to the person, he mentioned to someone else that they could move in if they want. So I think that's where some of the misunderstanding was. The person wasn't undocumented. The person was a legal resident of the United States of America. The source also said,
Broader orbit? Edge over a broader climate? Is the source named Kamala Harris? This boat can't paddle backward any faster, eh? How did they get in office?
That's our news drop for today, America. Remember, stay informed, stay skeptical, and always check who's really calling.
That's it for now. Be thankful and enjoy what you have. It's more than you think. If you liked our content, please give us a like and hit subscribe for more views through the News Drop scope. And if someone offers you watered down coffee, just say no. Good night, everyone.